Between now and 8 on 5 Live Sport, former world champion David Haye is with me in the studio with our boxing correspondent Mike Costello as well. 0500 909 693 if you want to put your calls, your thoughts to David, ask him any question you want to, or you can text us 85058. Now, a big story that's dominating the back pages at the moment, David, and I know you're not a big football fan, although Eric Cantona, I think, was one of your heroes, interestingly. But allegations of racist abuse by John Terry towards Anton Ferdinand. Now, they've been strenuously denied by the England captain, but without going into the particulars of that case, but as a prominent black sportsman, was racism something that you encountered much?
Not in boxing, because you can kind of you can knock people out, and people don't seem to be racist to people who are in their face and can knock them unconscious with one shot. In football, you hear a bit. You hear it in the stands. You hear it on the pitch from time to time. People saying this and that because they know no one can really get hurt on the pitch. Mm-hmm. But I've never had an opponent give me any racist abuse ever, or a sparring partner or anyone in the gym. So in boxing, I don't really feel there's any types of problems, to be honest.
Did you always get the right kind of respect? Do you think the respect that you deserved from the fans?
Yeah, you earn your respect, through tough fights and wins, and I definitely feel I've got my just dues, and the boxing fans recognise, I've gone onto foreign soil and fought guys bigger than myself. I didn't handpick these little small guys to fight. I was the European champion. As European champion, I had to fight 2 undefeated fighters. A guy who beat me in the amateurs prior. And I've had a hard, short career. Been 27 fights. European Championship. Defended that twice. 3 times I defended that, in fact. Then unifying the cruiserweight division and winning a portion of the heavyweight division. And defending that 2 times. And in 27 fights, that's pretty much unheard of to win that many titles. Very few fighters have done it in such a short window. But I think the true fans who know boxing understand that it's not easy to do what I did, and to do that without a big promoter behind you, doing that pretty much independently from the start. It's a very rare thing to happen, but I'm very proud of that.
Gary in Wolverhampton has given us a call this evening. Hi, Gary.
Hello, hi, good evening all.
How you doing, Gary?
Hi there. It's funny enough, I'm just ringing. It's an extension of what you just said, David, about respect, as earning respect as a fighter. Many boxing fans, I think, would feel that you were a good fighter, but you were a poor champion in the way that you conducted yourself. Mm-hmm. Do you regret the way you conducted yourself? And I'm speaking specifically about the way you promoted yourself. We all understand the game of boxing, selling tickets and all the rest of it. Uh-huh. However, going to a press conference with the Klitschko's with the decapitated heads on a T-shirt, and I think their mother was there at that conference. What you said promoting the Audley Harrison fight about gang raping, was that really necessary?
Nothing I've said is necessary.
Do you apologise for that?
No, I've never apologised for anything that I've said. Everything I've said in the lead up to fights is strictly to promote the fight. It rubs people up the wrong way, but the fact that you feel so passionately about it, the fact that you don't like it, and you think the fact that you don't like it and you feel passionately about it, passionate enough to phone up a radio station and question me about it, means it's done its job. The fact that it got into the newspapers and got out there to promote the fight to people who probably wouldn't have known that there was a boxing match, but because I had these T-shirts of decapitated heads.
You were a world champion. You were a British world champion.
There are many British world title champions who have never earned a penny.
Actually, funny enough, that'll come on to another point. The way you conducted yourself, do you not feel that's going to damage your legacy? Many fighters over the years, and I speak as a boxing fan, mm-hmm. My brother's listening in the car, and he'll agree, because, again, we're all fans and all my friends. Many fighters over the years, and I'll give you examples, maybe Lloyd Honeyghan, maybe Prince Nassim is probably one of the most modern examples of this, where you conduct yourself in such a fashion. You may sell tickets at the time, but your legacy, what you're remembered for, is not much. Frank Bruno probably wasn't the world's best champion, but he's still held in warm, high esteem by the British public. And again, if I give you Ben versus Eubank, you can go alongside it here.
Yeah. I think you've come up with some great examples there, Gary. Do you sympathise with what Gary says? Because he said, Frank Bruno. Frank Bruno didn't have to work so hard to sell his tickets.
I think as time goes by, I think what I said goes into the back page, goes into the back of people's minds and disappears, and your achievements in the ring is what gets remembered and what's mostly important. You know, as I said, if I hadn't have said the things that I've said in the lead up to fights, I guarantee I wouldn't be here now talking to you on the radio. You know, I wouldn't have got the Vladimir Klitschko fight. I wouldn't have got the Nikolai Valuev fight if I wouldn't have had that decapitated T-shirt. You know, I wouldn't have had the opportunities. The reason why I had the opportunities is because I ruffled some feathers, and I got the British public talking. Whether it is positive or negative, it got into the newspapers. Boxing very rarely gets any press outside of the back pages, and I seem to have got into there. Whether it's positive, whether it's negative, it doesn't bother me whatsoever. The fact was, get out there to as many non-boxing fans as possible and non-boxing people as possible, and let them know that I'm a boxer, I'm a heavyweight, I'm a champion, and people will follow you. And if you look at the pay-per-view numbers, if you look at the tickets sold, every ticket has sold pretty much in my last 5 or 6 fights. And that's simply, but it's not just because I'm a good boxer, because there have been many, many great fighters, particularly from Britain, who have been just as good as me, but they didn't have the following. And why didn't they have the following? Because maybe they were too nice, and maybe they focused too much on what people like yourself were happy about. You know, just saying, yes, I'm happy to be here. I wish him a lot of luck in his fight. Nobody will want to see that. So whether you like me or not, you know, it's irrelevant. If it affects my legacy, I genuinely don't care.
Gary, thanks very much indeed for your call. Interestingly, looking at your book, which is out today, Making Hay. It's written, as we say, by Elliot, who spent a lot of time with you and was very close to you in the build-up to fights. And he doesn't hold back, does he?
No, he keeps it
were there
real.
times reading the book where you cringed and you thought, actually,
yeah, I did.
I'm not particularly proud of what I did.
Yeah, definitely. When I was reading it back, I couldn't remember some of the stuff, because, you know, some of the comments I make in the lead up to fights, you know, I've got my head down. I'm very sort of self-centered and selfish in the lead up to fights. Obviously, reading that, it definitely highlights that. And you don't really realise the sort of pressure and stress you're putting pressure on people around you, you know, family members and myself, my relationship with Adam. You know, we fall out from time to time.
Adam Booth, your trainer,
Adam Booth, my trainer. Even Elliot, I fell out of Elliot at one stage. And you know, because I'm so focused on what I'm doing, you know, nothing else matters. You know, relationships, whatever. I don't care about anything else. Maybe that's what's made me successful. It's a strange one.
Is that part of what makes you say those kind of things then?
Maybe because I genuinely, I've got, as I said, me and Adam, we sat down before I turned professional and said we're going to win. We had a three-pronged attack on the professional boxing world, and that was to win as many titles as we can. Very happy with what I've won. Secure my future financially. Couldn't have done any better than that. And, you know, get out of boxing with your faculties intact and your health. And all 3 of those I've passed with flying colours. And, you know, so maybe I was so focused on those 3 things that being a nice guy and making sure everyone thinks I'm a great fellow and I've got to leave a lovely legacy, that was probably last of the list. It's irrelevant. You know, I had the three things that I wanted to achieve. I've achieved them. And maybe by focusing on them 3, I might have upset a few people, and some people might think, oh, he's a good boxer, but yeah, don't like him. He's not a legend in my eyes. Good luck. Carry on doing what you're doing with your life. You know, it doesn't affect me.
You've got 2 kids, haven't you?
Yeah.
Do you think there'll ever come a point where they'll read this back? Because, I mean, they're probably too young
Hopefully
to
one
remember.
day they'll be able to read it back.
Yeah. But will they like everything they read? Will they like everything it says about your
Probably
old
not.
man?
Probably not. You know, probably not. It's, you know, as you said, it's pretty much warts and all. You know, he doesn't really hold back. He says it how he sees it. And in the lead up to fights, I'm pretty cold. But I think that's what's made me a successful fighter. You know, it's not a normal thing for a human being to train for a fight, to go out there and go to battle with someone. You know, if you try and put an average guy in that same situation, he'll probably have a nervous breakdown, knowing that you're going to go into a ring and fight someone where you could potentially die. Boxers have died. Boxers have been paralysed, put in comas. You know, that is a possibility. And to put yourself voluntarily into that position, you know, is a strange thing to do, but it's something that I believe I was born to do. And I wouldn't recommend the average guy put himself in that sort of similar position, but I believe I was born to do it.
You've still got 15 minutes to get your calls into David Haye on 0500 909 693. We've heard a lot about the upfront David Haye, the trash talker, the guy who seems full of confidence, full of himself, a little bit arrogant at times, but actually you've talked, and Mike hinted at this as well about insecurities and about your recurring nightmare that you used to have before fights. Just tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, it was just a dream that I had. I didn't have it before all my fights. Obviously, probably maybe the bigger ones is I dreamed that I was in a fight that I couldn't punch properly. You know, there's a similar sort of thing when you're trying to run away from someone trying to stab you or something, and you can't run fast. You're running through mud, and you can't get away. I was in front of someone, and it wasn't the fact I was getting hit. Getting hit doesn't bother me. What bothers me is not being able to do what I know I can physically do. And in this dream, I'm trying to punch someone, and I can't quite get there. And it's so frustrating, because ever since I was a kid, I've always been faster than all my opponents. I've always been faster than everyone I've ever been in the ring with. And I've never struggled to land on the target. It's never been my problem. And so my dream, my nightmare is not being able to do that for whatever reason. And that's what drove me to train harder and to make sure that never happens actually in a fight.
So is that how was it an insecurity, do you think? That
I don't know. It was a fear of losing, fear of failing. Nobody likes to lose. No one likes to fail in what they do. I hate losing, no matter what it is. It was a game of table tennis. I'll play to the death. I have to keep. It's really is frustrating. And that's why I think that sort of dream kept popping into my head.
And when you did lose against Carl Thompson first time in 2004, big upset. You wrote a poem to Elliot, didn't you? I mean, I don't know if you remember it now, but basically it was pretty much about the madness of boxing. Sometimes when you step back, all of us feel slightly ambivalent about it and think, why are we involved in this? And there was kind of an element of that in the poem about happiness is a chemical reaction and boxing damages the brain.
Boxing is a sport. Sports are there for us to play. Playing is supposed to be fun. Fun is a chemical reaction in the brain, and boxing damages the brain. Yeah, it was a strange one. As I was feeling at the time, I think I went away after I lost to Carl Thompson. I went away on my own, I think to Gran Canaria or Tenerife or somewhere. Just literally on my own. Just got on a flight and just went away for a few weeks. And just sort of sat down and just sort of reflected on why it happened, what I need to do to improve, and how am I going to get to where I want to get to. And I needed that time just to clear my mind and structure a way back, and I did, and it worked.